the commission was approached I myself was approached by Steve Andreski to talk about, discuss whether there were opportunities to employ some of the clientele that would be the same type of clientele that EFI has, and Career Quest, have developmentally disabled folks that could be coached into meaningful employment. And I was very interested in this topic when the request came, in that we were talking about the county is moving towards putting a lot of our files onto electronic into the cloud base, which means a lot of scanning, a lot of repetitive work, etc. I thought might lend itself, once we've determined the indexing value or where things should go. And then I thought, well gosh, if there was supported employment opportunities, perhaps we could have some cost savings. And so that was my interest in having this discussion. But I am leaving the ground available to you. So commissioners, if you had anything else you wanted to hear on this topic of opportunities for supported employment here in the county, maybe they can...
Me and Stephen talked a while back. In my past business, I've actually utilized some of these things and found them to be extremely beneficial, not just to the people that I'm working with, but the businesses as well. I think it's a great partnership if we can just find a way to get it started and make it happen here. We're ready to go, I think.
Yeah, well, we've had programs that have worked very well for lots of partners in the community. Because they could be some of the just the individuals who gained employment here with us, and I think it's great opportunities. You guys are homegrown and right here, so.
Kim is with the Thurston County's developmental. What is the name of your department?
It's Thurston Mason County Developmental Disability, and we're housed in the Public Health and Social Services for Thurston County.
And for those, if you're not familiar, we do collect millage funds, some property tax funds that go towards mental health and DD services, and those monies that we do collect here go directly to our joint program, which we're not very familiar with, or I personally am not very familiar with what you are doing with those millage funds, and so that's why I wanted you to be here as well to kind of talk about that.
And those are a different set of money, and we use those for different services. The services that we'll be talking about today all come through a state contract, our state contract with the Department of Social and Health Services, Developmental Disabilities Administration, and they, over 30 years ago, decided to give Thurston and Mason County. Thurston County would have to do both counties, similar to the millage. So we provide services to both Thurston and Mason County. We have 6 providers total, and 3 providers that provide services here in Mason County.
So it looks like you're...
What are those? Can you name those?
The 3?
Yeah.
Yes, so we have EFI,
EFI.
and Career Quest, and then we have a third agency called VADIS. They're relatively new to Thurston and Mason counties, but they've been around for years, and they've been in Pierce County, King County. I think they might be down in Clark County too. And about 2 years ago, they moved into Thurston and Mason County. So they're still relatively small in the Thurston Mason County area because clients have their choice of what providers they go with and where the money their money goes with whoever they choose. So it's just getting them up to speed because Career Quest and EFI have great relationships with their clients, so they don't want to transfer.
So you're working with the private sector as well as the public sector for opportunities for your clients.
Oh, for work opportunities?
Yes.
Oh, they work everywhere.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
So do you not have any proportion, or are we? What do you see in the trend? I mean, is the public sector behind in this, or do we need to?
Yes. So other than we have a lot of clients that work for the state in Thurston County because we're the capital.
Right.
So we have a lot of clients that work probably, gosh, I want to say 30 to 40 maybe total clients that work for the state. Lucas is one of them, and he'll get to tell you a little bit about his story in a bit. But we have some that work for the City of Olympia, some that work for the City of Tumwater, City of Lacey. They each have at least 1 and possibly 2. Thurston County used to have 2 clients that worked for us, and when we went, one of them worked in the Record Center. When they went electronic several years ago, her job was unfortunately phased out. And then the second one worked in our office for over 20 years. She worked at the courthouse information desk for 5 years before that, then worked in our office. And she just 2 years ago retired to Mexico with her sister. So I actually met with the Thurston County Commissioners, Lucas and I did last week, and kind of gave the same presentation to them and hoped to start sparking the same thing and getting somebody employed in the county, at least one person. We have a lot employed.
That's her goal.
I was gonna say, we were talking a lot larger numbers than that.
I just wanted to start with, give me in one, and I'm happy to start, because I think it's, breaking the ground and getting them in there. And we have one new commissioner, and as of next year, we'll have 2 more new commissioners, so I think now would be
I'm sure Bud's pretty open-minded to all
He
this.
is very, yeah.
What a good commissioner he
Yeah.
is out there.
Mhm.
And Sandra actually wanted, mentioned she'd like to meet with me further on it too, so get that moving.
So one of the things I've asked you to talk to us a little bit about is just kind of, I called it cost sharing, and I didn't know if that translated well to you, regarding shared costs of say, the hourly wage or.
And I wasn't completely understanding that, so I'll just give you a little bit. Whoever hires them, they're your employee, you pay the wages. But where the cost sharing benefits can come into play is a couple things. The employment providers will help with initial training and ongoing training if needed. And then also, if you're having somebody that's a higher wage do your scanning, what's worked out for the state is they've created, you were talking about the unions, they've created a description called Office Assistant 1 that typically supported employment clients start with, and that's where they go in. And it's not as much of a higher wage as some of the other positions. So if you have somebody that's, just for argument's sake, an Office Assistant 4 scanning documents, they're making more money, or if you bring in an Office Assistant 1, they're not making as much money. And so it's still done, job description wise and based on salaries and stuff. And then there's always room for advancement if they want. But other than, I'm not sure if you were thinking that we paid part of their salary or not, if that's what you were.
I was.
No, it's whoever hires them, they're an employee of that agency, that company.
Okay, that's clear. And you managed to get over any issues or thresholds with unions regarding, and that's around the classification.
Right, and so that's, the state's work has done well, and when the 2 clients that we had in Thurston County, we had an Office Assistant 1 classification for them also. And I know that Steve has shared with you the city of Seattle, they have a big support employment program, and they've done the same thing. They've created specific job descriptions. And
well, I think what your documentation says is they didn't even have a job description. They kept it very open so that it could be very flexible to the needs of departments and abilities.
but it was a classification to actually hire the clients.
A position.
Yeah.
As far as duties, they could be
Right.
flexible.
Okay. Anybody have some questions for Kim about the programs she operates? I see we're all set up with a program here.
Well, we
Do you
did,
mind
because
if you
I've never participated in such a setting before, so I actually thought we were going to come in and actually present to you. And
You are.
Oh, yeah. And, but the main, I guess, aspect of this is, again, we're just hoping to give you some insights on how we work in the community with other agencies as far as, I should say, businesses. And especially this, I'm so thankful, again, that you could make it today as well, because the city of Shelton is another entity that I've really hoped we can create opportunities that are beneficial for both agencies. With that, can I just throw this at you?
Please do.
Thank you.
Since I find
It's
some
it's mine.
Oh, there it is.
The mayor believes so strongly in a city program for people with developmental disabilities, like Krista, called Supported Employment.
Thank you, Krista.
You're welcome. Its purpose?
To help people who have been traditionally excluded from workplaces get included. We realized that there were a lot of entry-level, routine, repetitive, smaller tasks that needed to be done, and we could bundle all of those tasks into positions for people with developmental disabilities.
So this is Heather. It's Heather Weldon's job to put those fears to rest.
The fact is, people always rise to the level of expectation placed on them. There is always an excuse why you can't hire someone with a developmental disability. Whether it's, oh, we just reorganized, we can't do it now, or I don't know if we have the right kind of tasks. And so what I say to that is, now is the time. Now is always the time. Because if we're going to start something new, we can't put it off into the future. We need to start now.
So this is actually a lot longer, but we just want to give you a little stipend of what it is to have someone with a disability come in and work alongside of others. There's so many aspects of it, and I'm sure Kim could touch on that as well. Well, if I get rid of that now. As far as the benefits, and we have slides, would you like us, which we shared with you, we'd like to go through that a little bit from our perspective, if you don't mind as well. And I was going to let Kim take some of that, and then we're going to just throw in a little thing that Deb and I threw this slideshow for you, okay? And I know you've already seen these slides, but I sure would like to disappear.
So I was just going to give a little information about what individual supported employment is, what it looks like. Some of this that I have written down on here and on the slide, we already talked about a little bit, so I'll just gloss over that. Like I said, for over 30 years, State Department of Social and Health Services, Developmental Disabilities Administration, that's a mouthful, has contracted with Thurston County to provide individual support employment services to Thurston and Mason counties. As of last month, there were 60 people in the program in receiving individual support employment services in Mason County. Of those, 75% of them are currently working in the community. All clients work in integrated settings and all earn at least minimum wage. So EFI in Mason County, and we had an agency in Thurston County that used to have what's called sheltered workshops. And people with developmental disabilities would go to a building that was owned by EFI, and they would all work there, and it could be paper sorting, or it could be, and they were paid at a piece rate. However fast they worked in comparison to however fast somebody worked without a developmental disability, they were paid that percentage. And so in Thurston and Mason County, probably 10 years ago, I think you guys shut down. Yeah, both Morningside in Thurston County and EFI in Mason County decided to shut their sheltered workshops down. So we don't have any more people with disabilities working in one location. They all just work in the community. And what we call integrated settings, meaning with everybody else. Yeah, just like anybody. And they all earn at least minimum wage now because they're not doing that. They work in locally owned businesses, franchises, state and city government, and some of them are even self-employed. So. And just to let you know that Washington State is known nationwide as a leader in support employment services. And Thurston and Mason County has also been considered a leader in those same services for many years. So we're kind of proud of that.
Congratulations to you for that.
So we contract with 3 agencies in Mason County to provide these services. And I'll just kind of briefly go over what some of those services may look like. Initially, when the client comes to one of our providers, they go into what we call discovery, and that's usually time limited, 3 to 6 month phase, where it's a chance for the providers to get to know the client and know what their likes and their dislikes are, what their strengths and weaknesses are, where they want to work, what kind of business they want to work in. Do they want to work daytime or nighttime, inside, outside, all that kind of stuff. And just really get to know who that client is, and so they can help. Then they move into job development, and that's where they are actually trying to find a good job match for that client in the community. And a lot of times those are what we call customized jobs, and I think Debbie will talk a little bit more about that. And so once they find what they think is a hopeful job match, they then help the client prepare for the interview. Most of the time, they will go to the interview with the client, sit right alongside them, answer questions that the employment provider may have. And then once hopefully they're hired, they go into what's called long-term retention or job coaching. And so each client will have a job coach that is totally based on the client's needs. Initially, it's some real intensive support, because when you first get hired, there's more training, more stuff that needs to be done. And then as they've been employed for a while, the coach may start to fade to where with some clients, they may come in once every 2 weeks and just check in with them. Hey, how's it going today? Check in with the supervisor, anything that we need to work on, talk about. If there's a change in the supervisor or a change in their job duties, then it'll become more intensive. So the services are based on the specific client and the place where they work, whatever that's needed at that time. So it can, 1 month they could have 10 hours of support, and the next month 20 hours, and the third month 5 hours. It just depends on what they need. The ultimate goal is to reduce paid job coaching, if appropriate, to help the client become a fully integrated member of the work team. So if our coaches can back off and help teach the co-workers how to support the client if needed, then it's more of an integrated setting and more natural. And so with that, I think Debbie's going to go and explain a little bit more about what those services look like.
So once we've gotten another client, and then we talk about customized employment, is when we start going out into the community and talking to the employers to see where we can be helpful in the businesses. We talked about things like scanning, or someone who could do a little bit different pieces of jobs that someone who's being paid a lot more to do those things. Some of them are just even little tasks of the day that no one ever has time to do, and it helps to have someone come in and do that. Once we identify the tasks that need to be done, then there's always the job description, and how do we make it look like a formal job description. And we talked about the guidelines of assistant one, or whatever fits to that business's descriptions that they have. Then when we figure out what you need, and we've gone with our clients, we'll bring them back to do an interview. And we've pretty much spent quite a bit of time with them, so know who they are and know what their skills are, so that when we're bringing them to you, we feel confident that it'll be a good match. So that's on that part of it.
So for your typical client, do you provide transportation services too, or many times it's public transportation? Or?
Yeah, it's public transportation, or it is if they're living with residential care providers, that they have transportation. And it's public transportation can be a challenge, but also employers have been really willing to work and say, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, we can accommodate to that part of it. So.
Do you also?
Absolutely.
Do you have residential facilities as well? Where they would have
we actually do not do residential. As far as our agency is mainly employment. EFI has been doing that for many, many years, but we do not see ourselves as working that side of this business.
And when I was saying with anybody that has any type of a provider, whether it could be living in their own home and having residential services. Sorry, I didn't clarify, it wasn't EFI is residential, it's just that anybody that has a care provider of any sorts, whether they live with their family or live in a separate living.
It is, again, dependent on that individual, how best they transfer themselves to work and back, just like anybody.
Okay.
But we work those details out prior as well.
They want to work a lot of times too, and they get there before everybody else.
Yeah, true. They'll be waiting.
Yeah, they'll be waiting.
I worked with Alderbrook, we had a lot of your clients.
Yeah.
Alderbrook, and they were our best employees, I swear.
And so there's lots of different potential job duties that they can do. Clerical is, kind of the main one that seems like no one ever has time to get that done. Stocking, taking inventory, that's another project that people never seem to get around to getting done. So motor pools, car detailing, that's something that, again, you know, you might have a maintenance department, but they don't get those little things done, or someone wants to take a car out before it's gotten serviced, and janitorial. People always think that, oh, people don't like to clean. Some of our clients, they love to clean, and they do a good job at it, you know, so that's kind of one of the things is, it's not, well, yeah, and sometimes I think, oh, well, that's just, you'd be surprised at how many people like control of that vacuum cleaner or making something clean because they can see the end result of it. Sometimes when they're just putting things in a mailbox or doing some other things, it's not the result of what they actually get to do. So those are labor. Oh, they're hard workers, so breaking down boxes and things like that, they're really getting to use their muscles, and they're proud of that. So those are some of the things that they really, and they enjoy. You know, what we sometimes take for granted as a job. But
Yeah, and if I could interject, just that routine aspect of it. You teach an individual, this is the way it's done, and they will not deviate. They have to do it that way. And so those are the things that you and I, maybe they're less challenging and time consuming.
Do your job coaches
So,
then kind of teach about flexibility though, or judgment when,
Sure.
you know, it looks a little different?
Absolutely, and the way they actually work with them is while they're being taught by, let's say, a supervisor, the job coach may be learning as well about how that office performs these tasks. Then once they have it also, they'll be teaching, because maybe that individual takes a little longer to get it.
Okay.
So that job coach will step in now and make sure that those tasks are being learned the way the particular office is needing them to be accomplished.
and the job coach is there for intensive support, communication, and they're trained so that if there's conversations that maybe the supervisor has a difficulty time having with them because they're just maybe not the communication part of it, the coach can always help with that and, you know, kind of make things clearer. Or a lot of times maybe the person is too scared to talk to their supervisor, so we're there to have that help with the communication. Coworkers might not understand something that a person does, and we're explaining, well, you know, what is the disability or the behavior, and this is what someone needs to do to be able to process. And once everyone understands that, they don't necessarily think it's, oh, they're different anymore. They just realize what they need to do to process something to get the job done.
Questions, going back to the applicability, unless you had something more you wanted to share.
Oh, well, we'll just keep going here. But if you wanted to catch up on something we've already passed through, is that what you're...
You know, you had talked about those jobs that don't seem to people get to. I can see that here in the county crossing over multiple departments, multiple elected officials, and multiple, you know, unions, frankly. And so I wonder about our flexibility to fully utilize these types of services. In that, sure, there might be here those things we can't get to, but it's not an 8-hour-a-day job or even a half-time job. But if you took that same type of work and moved it across different departments and under different management, that might be possible. But I'm having difficulty seeing how this would be applicable. I don't have, you have a nice centralized system. We're so decentralized, it makes it difficult for us to go across departments and across different elected offices.
But it might not be applicable in one particular office, but, I mean, our public works department's very large, the sheriff's office is very large. We do have...
Well, I guess what I'm asking is have you had examples of being able to overcome that issue? Not so much
There are
it doesn't exist.
a lot of our clients that work for the state and that work in several departments.
And several unions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Commissioner Terry, we actually have individuals that maybe an hour and a half a week is beneficial to them.
Okay.
They have a job, they love their job, but they can only, because of their particular situation, maybe that's all they can work. And that's all they want. And that's positive for them. So it's very individualized as far as, and I'll give you an example. We do have an individual working at a credit union who started with more hours, and actually that was too much for that individual. They love her at the credit union, but she can only do an hour and a half a week. And I'll tell you what, she's there for that hour and a half, and she's glad she has that She leaves the home and gets to do this, and when she goes home, she's done. So having an 8-hour shift may not be what each individual is asking for or even needs to be out in the community. It's a community service as well. So.
And in Thurston County, one client that we had working for us for many years, she only worked a few hours a week. And we have a classification called temporary employee if they're under so many hours a year. And she was considered a temporary employee for 20 years because she'd only worked a few hours, but she still worked there for over 20 years. Just because her hours were so limited, and that a lot was her choice too.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you heard, but our staff is at no cost to employers. So your job coach comes in and works with these individuals at no cost to the county or the city. So they're there as much as necessary to support not only the individual, but so that we don't want that individual that comes in to be more work for the county or more work for the city. We want to make sure that we're partnering in a factor that you can trust that we have these coaches on staff and they're going to be there to make sure that we're not taking your employee away from some other important works as well to be supervising or caring for our client. So it's a win-win for both sides of this coin. Let me look at that. So this,
Sure. 5 more minutes.
that's it. Can I have another hour with
I'm
you?
sorry.
Sure. You may have more questions. I just want to show you the benefits of hiring supported employee. You read this, I'm sure.
No, go ahead,
Quick.
I'll finish off.
And again, you can see on the slide here, and I don't want to read through it, you already have, but to me, there's so many benefits, not only to, and this is where my heart is, it's not about resources as much as it is about what it does to lives. These individuals, it means everything for them to be out working and being part of the community. And like us, we all have titles, we all have jobs, and those mean something. When someone says to you, Terry, well, what do you do in the community? Well, I'm a commissioner for the... It means something, and that's the same with these individuals. They have an identity, and it means a lot to them. What does it do for the work environment? Well, I don't know if you've seen people with disabilities, what it can do to the other staff. It just changes dynamically where they get to work along somebody with a disability. And not only, sometimes you can see how fortunate, but people are impressed with an individual that has a disability, how maybe they make up for that disability in other ways. I think we all do that in our lives, but more or less people with more challenges have to do that. So it's just a great, to me, these individuals are a force to be reckoned with out there that aren't being availed. And I think we can. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, you opened my eyes again to this, and we deal with it at the state law. I've had even bills about this to try to promote more positions, but I think it's important to get our staff involved and the other electeds involved to try to think of, brainstorm, where would these roles really work for us? And you mentioned cleaning and vacuuming and things. I mean, at Public Works, we have to detail cars, we've got to clean out those types of things. We have maintenance that are periodic and not regular. It's not every day that you check the inventory for oils, hydraulic, all this kind of stuff. You know, if we had more interaction with those people that are assigning the jobs, I think we have more feedback to you, benefits back to you.
We've had past conversations also with like the auditor and the idea of scanning this. So it's funny you keep bringing that up because that's one of the things that come up in the past, the idea of scanning and putting things into our databases for the future so we have quick access to it. You touched on something I can tell you that goes a little undersold. What it does to the morale of the people that they work with quite often is something that it's hard to calculate. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how people automatically are different when they feel they're doing something good or something right. Their morale changes, and if they find one thing to unify over between each other, you know, look at our battles. If we have something to unify over, that becomes something fantastic for everybody, and it bridges a lot of gaps, a lot of benefits that go unsaid.
So before we run out of time, I'd like to have Lucas tell you a little bit about his story. He is a client with our agency in Thurston County called Morningside. And through that, he has gotten a job with the state, and so I'll let him tell you a little bit.
So I started my job back on January the 9th, 2001. I work with a group of people who see me for me, and I think that's really important. When it comes to hiring individuals with disabilities, a lot of people look at the disability, but often I've learned from my friend from Morningside, Lori, if you could just take off the first 3 letters. That's what it comes down to, because I have the ability to pay my taxes, pay my bills, to live on my own. And most of the clients out there dream being able to work out there in the community and not be judged because of the way they sound or the difficulties that they have in life. And that's how my employer sees me. They see me as a person that works hard, that helps provide the support as an office assistant would, in terms of filing, inventory, tagging the equipment, answering phones. My employer sometimes says, you know, without Lucas, the office doesn't run, basically, because you have to have clerical support to be able to make the office run. And I think it's really important that people see me for me and not because of the label disability. And I wish that most people could see that, you know, because most people with disabilities dream that they be able to come to work or get a job and not be like, oh, we're really hesitant to hire those type of people because the way they talk or the way they look or because of their disability. But people like myself, labeled with a disability, have the ability to make a huge impact in the workplace. And I think that that's really the true message that people with disabilities try to pass along to most employers, that they don't want to be looked at because of the flaws that they have, but they have a lot to offer to the workplace, no matter what.
I think it's interesting that you say that, because an advocate for the DV community once said to me, you're all tabs, temporarily able-bodied persons, because someday there's a piece in your body that's going to go away.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And thank you for sharing that, because I think that you're absolutely right.
We all have disabilities to one degree or another in some way, shape, or form.
Ryan, did you have any questions?
I'm familiar with this field of work, so I managed a special ed department for Steilacoom School District and worked in special ed in the state of Colorado. I also managed one of the departments I managed at Pierce Transit was paratransit. So one thing I know is that nationwide, exceptional forester is pretty well known. So as long as it's been around, it was one of the first to do this type of work. And even when I was in Colorado, I could tell people where I was from, and 9 times out of 10 in that field, they know the exceptional forester. So I'm very excited to see how we can take a look at the city if we can get something on board.
Well, from what Commissioner Sheldon had said about, we need to now have this discussion among the entire group, and so if I find the forum, which could be an open invitation to on a briefing, or we do meet quarterly as all elected officials and directors. But I'll be asking you folks to come back and do this one more time.
We would love to.
But in the meantime, I would love Kim or whoever feels they're most appropriate to speak. In here in the room is Don Twitty, who's our Human Resources Manager. And Don would need to know some of those things, those hurdles to overcome, and especially the cross-union, cross-departmental questions about, how have you overcome them, and what are the right things, conversations to have with the right people.
And as we get further down the road, Heather Weldon was on the little blurb that Steve showed. She's the one that manages the program for the city of Olympia and our city of Seattle. They have I believe over 100 people with disabilities that work for the city of Seattle. And we'd be happy to bring her down and have her work with Debbie and Career Quest with you guys on how to best handle it, how to make it work. And we have part of the contract that we receive from the state pays for them, but it also pays, we have a portion of money that's considered training and community info, so we can access part of that to pay for somebody like Heather to come down and work with.
I think it would help just open our eyes up to what are the possibilities. And I think that's what one of the biggest barriers, or you don't see the possibilities until you hear the example or hear it from someone, or talk to Lucas and, thank you for coming today. That's what opens people's eyes and gives them.
And that's where, the employment providers coming in and they can take a look and they do what's called a job analysis, task analysis, job analysis. They take a look at what your employees are doing or what, could be done better, or not necessarily better, but more than maybe. They're great at figuring that kind of stuff
Do
out.
a department-wide assessment.
Absolutely.
Could be useful in other purposes.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you
will,
so
we
much
will,
for having
we
us.
will endeavor to find another forum for you to get a bigger audience. But thanks for getting our feet wet on this topic.
Oh, yeah.